This is the Business Storytelling Show with Christoph Trapp. Named a top 20 storytelling podcast and a top 5% podcast globally, Christoph chats with thought leaders and experts to share tips and tricks that can help you tell your company's stories better to drive business results. Available wherever you listen to podcasts, live streamed on major social media channels, and part of the DB&A television network, available on most U.S. television sets and streaming on Roku and Amazon Fire. Here's Christoph with today's episode. Let's go.
Let's go, business storytellers. How's everyone doing? We want to talk about influencer relations, professionalism today. And you can see I have my guests. We're waiting for one more. Some technical difficulties. FYI, it happens all the time in live streaming. Just got to roll with the punches. When she joins us, she joins us. But I got them on the screen today because getting three people on the screen at the same time, all these graphics, just too much work. And I'm still trying to talk. So today I'm joined by Aliza Licht. She is on the board of the American Influencer Council, and Janelle. Patrick, thanks for joining us. Aliza, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you guys making the time.
Pleasure to be here, Christoph. Thanks for having us on.
And so the American Influencer Council, I ran across it a while back. Don't know why, but I love it when I run across things and then I can find out what it is it worth spending time with? So I appreciate that much more than just getting a cold email from some company that wants to work with me. You know what I mean? So sure. You guys are definitely out there. So tell me, to get us started, what is the American Influencer Council? What is it?
Patrick, why don't you take that as president?
Sure, yeah. So again, my name is Patrick Janelle, and I'm the president of the board of directors for the AIC. The AIC, we're new, very young. We were founded a year ago. Trade organization dedicated to the professionalization and education surrounding the influencer marketing industry. So basically what that means is that there are currently over 50 million creators on social media platforms who are monetizing the work that they do. This is a massive industry. Billions of dollars are being spent within this industry, and there has yet to be any sort of standardization or education around how creators maneuver within the industry, and that is the goal of the AIC. Qianna, who is our founder, I think should be joining us shortly, hopefully. But this is really her vision, and then Aliza and I came on board to support as well. All as career creators, we are excited to have this entity that can really help grow our industry.
And just to add to what Patrick was saying, another thing that Qianna, welcome Qianna, is setting out to prove is the contribution of creators to the American GDP, because right now, none of that is accounted for. What's only accounted for is the brand spend on marketing. But these creators are micro agencies. They're hiring teams of people. They're hiring different talent to support them, and that needs to be known.
Qianna, we got you on the show. Hopefully you can hear us. I'm used to technical difficulties. Happens all the time. So we just roll with the punches. Can you hear us, though?
We can hear you, Qianna.
Nope, we can't hear you, unfortunately. Well, I'll put you back in the
Is that better?
Yes, we can hear you.
Go.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And can you see me?
Yes.
We can see you. We're good to go.
All right, great. Well,
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having us on the show. I know we connected a while back, and it's been a long time coming. So big fan of your podcast.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. And of course, I don't make it easy on myself going on all these live channels, and then also on the DB&A television network now. So that's one of the latest things. Now, I think I fall into the category of influencers sometimes. I do the Amazon influencer stream. I do the videos, and I do all of this and whatnot. And Patrick, you talked about the professionalism and, how do you professionalize what you guys are doing or what influencers are doing? I don't think it exists right now. I mean, I think it's kind of the Wild West out there. So Qianna, can you talk about that a little bit? How do we get training to people, or how do we make it a little bit more structured, for lack of a better marketing buzzword?
For sure. If you think about our space, it's creators as makers has been, happening for the last 20 years. And I think that we are seeing, especially with COVID, a real turn with brands understanding that creators are, as Aliza was saying, acting as micro publishers. And I think with the startup economy, it's really exciting to see creators really pivoting as small businesses. And so we're seeing the narrative change. We're moving from, the gig economy to the creator economy. And when creators are stepping away from the platforms, acting as a spokesperson, so many creators are now running their own brands. We're seeing the change from, D2C to C2C, creators to consumers. There's a real, need for creators entering this market to understand business ethics and to have the vernacular to be able to pitch to Fortune 500 brands at the C-suite, right? And how are you able to do that if you're maybe 16, you decided, hey, I've built this community, I don't have necessarily formal education, and I don't know the way the game's played. And that's really the why we started the council. You have so many different people who've been in this space who didn't have a playbook, it's trial by error, and don't want that for the future generations of this space. And so we started from the launch, creating a resource hub, really just a centralized place to all the platforms. Like, what are the ABCs, the basics to, start? Like, what's the rubric? First, you'll see, things from like small business administration, how to just get started. Do you need an LLC? Do you want to start a corporation? What are all like the standard things just to have a company, an EIN? And then we get into, you're already a great content creator. You probably starting to think about brands. Do you have a media kit? All of those things. And then, the legal aspect, writing a contract. What are all the basics? So we really, focusing on, the enterprise of the creator ecosystem. How do you go from being a great content creator to a great entrepreneur?
Well, you guys, please jump in. The thing that came to my mind is, first of all, an LLC. That's easy enough to set up, and it's also easy enough to forget about, right? And my LLC name, I don't use for anything. Like, you only see it if you get an invoice from me, right? I don't really use it publicly, but I still have it. The other thing that I just thought about, and this literally just happened not too long ago, but you have to know your worth, right? So I have people reach out to me all the time on Amazon, especially, and they want to send me their product. Now, I don't know if it's a good product. I don't know anything about the product. And they offer me, we'll do a commission deal or an affiliate deal. And I'm like, I don't need you to do an affiliate deal. I can literally do that by myself. So I have a bare minimum, right? If you want me to do a live stream with your product, this is how much it is. Because I know if you were to do your own live stream, that is literally how much it would cost you to do it. You won't even get my channel. But how do influencers start understanding that? I kind of stumbled into it because I didn't want to keep emailing with people who weren't going to give me any money anyways, if it's a brand I already use, like this chair, which I love, I'm more open to it, right? For doing it for a little less, but at the end of the day, they can't do it for free either.
Yeah, you sort of nailed it. And the team can also jump in. I think that our space is one where creators are operating, as solopreneurs. They are operating independently. So depending on what stage you are in your career, you might not have a community or a network just to soundboard, right? The one thing for myself, I was a blogger who moved into corporate, but what does corporate give you? It gives you coworkers. It gives you, other people to bounce off ideas, to troubleshoot. And that's the one thing within the creator community, you'll have pockets of people sharing information, and there isn't a network to problem solve. And that's what makes things difficult. A brand could approach you and say, hey, I want to work with you for X amount of dollars. And that might not be a deal worth moving forward. But depending on if you're, nano to mid-tier and you that's a great opportunity. Or you might have negotiated, terrible creative rights in terms of leasing your art in perpetuity because you still don't understand what that means. And so we're doing a lot of education. We're really big on knowledge sharing and really tapping in to creators to pass on experiences because we're a learning and development first trade org. So we started series like our Creator Lunch and Learn, and just tackling all of these things that you've mentioned, because brands will approach you like, here's free product, but creators can't pay their bills on product alone or gifts. So it's really trying to help people, especially in the early stages of their journey, understand, what's your value, what you should be charging for, at what point do you, no longer, entertain products or gifts? When do you say, I have no obligation to do anything if you send me something? So it's just like knowing that's okay.
Just to add to that, my purview, I'm a fellow podcaster. My podcast is Leave Your Mark, and I'm also a brand marketer. And I think from the brand side, you always start with what is your rate, right? And then, we have the tools on the brand side to understand what is their engagement rate, is the audience the right demographic, and how valuable will it be to partner with that person, and then you negotiate from there. But I think that, this sharing of knowledge amongst creators, and certainly the resource hub that the AIC has created to sort of generate these conversations and have a more open forum as to what are people making, is the way that younger creators will understand how to price themselves.
Without a question. And I think, the VC Signal Fire released a great report on just like the 2020 landscape, like how many creators, are operating or, identify as a creator. And there are over 50 million, individuals who identify and are earning as a creator. That's a tremendous size of a small business community. And so, when you start drilling into that, out of that 50 million, when you start looking at demographics, what are the age groups? How sophisticated are these individuals in their, abilities as an entrepreneur? Because we want, as the AIC, to make sure that this trade group is going to be able to continue to grow and prosper, because we're not thinking short term. We're really challenging the creator community and also the business community to create an ecosystem that creators can thrive, and have, true personal growth. How do you achieve that? right? We start talking about, financial capability. We just added that to our resource hub. How can we help creators become financially capable, where you're not living from one brand deal to the next? Also, and getting young people to start thinking about, savings and retirement, because this is a profession. And I think our space moves so fast that you get so many different young people in that the turnover, it's no different than, like, say, a modeling industry out, but then there's so many more new young people ready to come in and create. And then, that creates a lot of gray and white space, is what I hear from brands, where I've actually been, in meetings where I've heard brand marketers say, I would love for creators to, think about not wanting rates or to not be paid for work. And it's like, what person in corporate America would ever want their manager to say, I would love for you to not think about getting your bonus? Or I would love, so it's really important for us to have these conversations about professionalism, that creators are doing a work that's very important to advertising and the communication landscape. And we need the support of the business community to treat these professionals as no different than other advertisers, because creators are producing, they're managing their communities, they're editing. I mean, if you think about the hours that go into it, it's a tremendous effort, and people don't understand it unless you're doing it.
Yeah, I actually think sometimes what happens is companies try to move the risk from themselves to everybody else, right? So I have to take the risk and I have to work for free. And I'm kind of allergic to working for free, quite frankly. However, on the other side, I'm not a full-time influencer, right? If we have to put it in that bucket. I mean, you guys are seeing all the stuff we're doing right here, I'm learning things on how to do live streams. I do it in my day job. I help some other people on a very limited basis to do their live streams. Patrick, tell us why we got 2 board members here, the founder. Why did you get involved? What's the passion with the organization?
Well, I have been a, career creator. I have made a living as an influencer for close to a decade now. And there has never been a centralized source of support, education, organization, communication surrounding this industry. So I think, something that Qianna said earlier is so true. Often we work as she used the term solopreneurs. We work in these silos in which we don't necessarily, despite the fact that I've been in this industry, a part of this industry for years, it's very rare that we have access to the knowledge sharing and the communication surrounding just the sort of like basic practices of what we do. There's something else, which is that I think it's really important for creators to own their futures. And I actually, as a part of my growth as a content creator, influencer, within this space, I actually created and founded an agency in which we manage social media talent. For one thing, because I was finding a lack of, the sort of like information and the sort of assistance to kind of like help manage these deals we're talking about. I created my own team for that. I then built a team that could help others with that. But really, this also created an opportunity for me to have some sustainability and longevity within this space, because as much as we are grateful to all of the platforms that we work with, you have the TikToks, you have the YouTube, you have the Instagram, our careers and our ability to create and communicate with our audiences ultimately need to be much bigger than just any single platform in order to remain sustainable. So for some people, that's developing their own product line. It's they're becoming authors. They are, in my case, creating an agency. Is it about diversifying across multiple platforms? Is it about growing your email database? Is it starting a podcast? All of these things are super important for the sustainable future of any creator. And these are some of the things that the American Influencer Council is also, very deeply aware of, and hopefully going to be supporting, and is continuing to support our community, just in terms of help to educate and helping to be a resource. One of the goals of the AIC is really to be sort of in communication with the various platforms. I know that as a creator myself, it's always been sort of a sticky situation when you feel like you're giving so heavily to the platforms that you're creating on, and you don't necessarily always feel like you have support from those platforms. We have seen varying levels of support. I think some platforms are better at this than others. You have the TikTok Creator Fund. We've seen all of these things in recent weeks and months from Snapchat with their Spotlight feature, giving back to creators who are performing well. But ultimately, if you're just sort of like operating in a silo, you don't necessarily have access to these platforms. And the AIC is really, one of our goals is to be in communication with these platforms. We're able to act as a liaison between the creator community and the platforms themselves.
And I mean, I know there's some people who make a living on TikTok only, and now I see they're expanding into Instagram Reels, which is, I use Instagram Reels. I don't really use TikTok, so my daughter doesn't like it that I know all the dances. You're not going to see me dancing anytime soon, but I know them because they're now on Reels. But I'm a big believer in the whole model of create once, publish everywhere, right? You want to be on all the relevant channels. Now, Aliza, I think you mentioned it earlier on negotiation. And my philosophy is, if you email me and you say, we want to do a live stream, and you're already starting with commission only, I'm not negotiating. Here's the price, the end. Now, if you're calling me and you're a bigger brand and you have a bigger, campaign in mind, and you're saying, we want to spend this $25,000 with you. Now I'm going to hop on a call with you, right? So I would say there's this spectrum in my mind. Is that just working for me, or what kind of tips do you have when it comes to that?
So that's a great question, Christoph. I think it depends on the level that you're at when you get that call, right? So first and foremost, a commission-based structure, depending on the brand that you're talking about, can actually end up being more lucrative than a flat fee. So first and foremost, do your research and understand what kind of business is that site doing in the first place. I think a hybrid structure of having an initial fee, but then having the upside of a commission-based structure, depending on who it is. I know there are a lot of A-list celebrities who often do those kinds of deals, and it behooves both sides only because talent, it behooves them to post more and to do more, because the more that they share it, the more they're going to make. And it also tempers the amount of spend the brand has to put up front. So it's more like growing together. Now, for a live stream, there's a certain amount of pre-production that goes into it. For a creator that we're talking about regarding the AIC, there's a lot of pre-production, and there's probably hiring of team members who have to help you produce. So you need to cover those costs up front. So it's really just about thinking, and I hate to say it, it's just not one size fits all. Every single deal should be looked at individually, and most importantly, considering what the usage is of the assets long-term, where it's going to live, how long it's going to live, and price accordingly.
Of course, the answer always is it depends. I mean, I could have guessed that, but it's true.
It does. Listen, Instagram just rolled out affiliate this week for talent. So everyone is starting to recognize, which is like a duh moment, that like without creators, there is no social. What is going on social without creators? So it is time for the platforms to wake up to that, and we're happy to see that they are. And we look forward to more advancements in this area.
Yeah, there's definitely not one size fits all. And I think that most brands, if you are, have your in-house operations. In my capacities, I always had our influencer operations in-house. We didn't farm it out. But a lot of brands have, an agency on record, and they're managing their creator operations, with a partner. And this is where it gets very complex, because depending on what size of business you are, there's so many different types of entities that want to play with the influencer space. And I meet with businesses. I also mentor, and I meet with companies who are just starting, mid-tier companies, from Fortune 500 to Fortune 100, and everyone wants to have, some type of, influencer or brand advocate type of program. And, there is a different level of sophistication at every type of company. And that's where, you have, different types of issues within the space, where you have companies who are operating at a high standard and are treating creators with integrity and are negotiating fair contracts. But then you do have companies who aren't creator first. And, there's a term going around, creator washing, where companies are, promising commitments to creators and not seeing those through, because it's a buzz term. It's cool to have a creator program. And I think that's where the standards become so important, and that you need, businesses setting models and precedents so that other companies have benchmarks to look up to do things right.
Yeah, I'm not always the best. I'm not always a big fan of practices, but best practices are good to have, or standards, as you would say it. So you can say, well, the standard is X, Y, and Z, right? This is kind of how it's done in the industry, even if it's early on. I know we're out of time already. Time flies. That's how it goes when you're on TV. This is the slot you get. Really appreciate you guys joining us, sharing your knowledge. AmericanInfluencerCouncil.com. Check it out. Thanks for joining me and sharing your insights.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review our show on your favorite podcast channels. And don't forget to share this episode with your networks. We appreciate you. Until next time, let the best stories win.